Welcome to r/revenge stories, where you will hear satisfying revenge stories from 4 different subreddits. If you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I upload daily content, and without wasting any more time, let's dive right in. And the first one is titled, "Thieving Dogs Screwed Me Out of $4,000, I got it back and cost the dogs another $700,000. A few months ago, a company, Low Dogs LLC, was required to sell some pretty rare stuff. Low Dogs was very cozy with another company called Morality Ltd that wanted the stuff, but the industry we are in is highly regulated, and so Low Dogs could not just sell straight to Morality. So, to be seen to comply with the regulations, Low Dogs offered to sell the stuff to some other people, me being one. They said that if we wanted the stuff, it was ours, and if we didn't, well, then they would sell it to Morality Ltd. In that way, they would comply with the regulations prohibiting direct sale to their buddies at Morality Ltd. So, I get Low Dogs' offer, and you know what? It's actually very well priced. I say thanks, here's my check, and await my stuff. Tick tock, no stuff. Call Low Dogs up and say, "Yo, where's that stuff I bought?" And they say, "Oh, we sold it all to Morality for the same price we offered it to you. Here's your check back." And so I say, no, and I sue them for a few grand, that being the profit that I did not make by reselling the stuff they did not deliver. Now, Low Dogs could have sorted me out pretty easily, settle my claim, move on. For reasons known only to them, they did not. They chose the double dare option, engaged high-flying attorneys and started fighting hard. Over a few grand. Old fisting donkeys don't bend over when someone tries to screw him, so all that did was provide further encouragement. I spent several weeks and several $1,000s putting together a detailed dossier on everything that had happened, then sent it to Low Dogs and said, "We can do this the easy way, sort this out, or the hard way, I will provide this to the regulators." They said, "You will never bother, go away." Okay kids, whatever you think. So off it went to the regulator. I've really simplified the story above. It's actually a pretty complex situation, hence the huge work involved in explaining everything to the regulator, which Low Dogs thought I would not trouble myself with. The regulator took a look at my dossier and came down on them hard. On my estimate, Low Dogs spent maybe $100,000 on attorneys in fighting the regulator, only to lose the argument. The regulator forced Morality Ltd to give the stuff back to Low Dogs, who then had to give it to me and everyone else who had placed orders but been denied at the original low price. The profit that Morality Ltd missed out on was something like $600,000. And as it happened, Morality Ltd had contrived the original scheme with Low Dogs and they were planning to share the profits. Too bad, so sad. Amusing enough, but there is a kicker. Turns out the stock controller at Low Dogs, who was an a-hole to me when I complained that I had not received my order, had actually not passed everything on to Morality. He had kept some for himself and sold it for a neat profit of about $20,000. When the regulator was investigating what had happened, that fact came out and Low Dogs were not happy. They were so unhappy, in fact, that the stock controller was promptly sacked from his $200,000 PA job. Unlucky. Too long didn't read for the people who did not understand the story, got screwed for a few grand, then cost the screwers a boatload of dough and removed an a-hole from his high-paying job in the process. By the way guys, this story was from r/ProRevenge, and I would like to know which of the revenge subreddits is your favorite. Let me know in the comments. The next one is from r/PattyRevenge and is titled, "Make fun of a cashier with a speech impediment? Enjoy some extra time in line." I was at a craft store in my town and it was not too busy, but only one register was open. The cashier, a teenaged girl, I could tell was working as best as she could. The process was a tad slower however, because she had a stutter and a bit of a lisp. As she worked through the line, asking the usual questions probably mandated by the big wigs, I've worked in retail, it's a thing, the man behind me began to huff and puff. He muttered something about having places to go, he was in a hurry, etc. I ignored him until I heard him start to mock her to his kids.
Would you like your skid?
The kids began to laugh, it really made my blood boil, especially since I could tell the cashier heard this mockery. That really made my blood boil. When a person does not respect retail employees as people, it is the best way to tell whether a person is an asshat or not. So, when it was my turn at the register, she asked me in a small voice, "Are you a member of the rewards club?" And I looked smugly at the guy behind me and back at her. Me? The rewards club? Oh, that sounds great. Please explain it to me. She seemed surprised at first, but then looked at the guy behind me and then it clicked. I have never given my information so slowly in my life, never had I asked as many questions as I did. She smiled and answered my inquiries while the guy behind me was seething. Him,
"Can you hurry up, please?"
Me, and miss out on these great rewards? As if. I only held him up for about 5 minutes, but woo child, it felt so good. I don't know about you guys, but this story felt insanely satisfying to me. I know that not everybody loves petty revenge, but for me these stories are like a guilty little pleasure. The next one is gonna be from r/nuclear revenge and is titled "Supervisor takes credit for my work, I cause entire production to shut down." I started working in a machine shop after I finished school with a 2-year degree in machining. Learned all kinds of programming techniques that could make most machines that were less than 30 years old perform moves and output measurements of parts currently in the machine to automatically perform quality control. This greatly increases quality of parts as well as reduce waste and human error. I also learned many tricks along the way to make sure that my work could not be stolen. It is my first day on the machine shop floor and I immediately notice inefficiencies in all the machines in my station. We had to manually perform quality control, sacrificing production time, while also leaving tons of room for human error due to the poor quality of measuring instruments in the shop. I am new and eager to prove I'm worth more than the original pay they offered. I told my supervisor to let me spend an hour to add a line of code to a machine to demonstrate my skills I learned in school that would immediately cut scrap/waste down by a large portion without slowing production rates on the line. My immediate supervisor humored me, thinking I was BSing him to try and brown-nose the engineers and lead programmers so I could get brownie points or something. Quick backstory to note, I had 0 experience in a production plant and said supervisor had 30 years experience in the field. He had a very proud attitude and genuinely worked very hard to learn what he knew. He was decent to work with, but when I asked questions about some of the basics on this machine, like how to get to the program so I could edit it, he would block my view of what he was doing and get to the end result quickly without explaining the process. Being new and wanting to learn, I would always ask to have him show me what he did. He always refused and claimed it was his way of securing his job. Anyway, I programmed the function into the machine in about 2 hours 40 minutes, and when it comes time to demonstrate the process, it catches a part that is out of tolerances according to the blueprint. I also programmed the machine to output different messages, providing instructions to whoever the operator was on ways to resolve the issue if the part could not be salvaged, or to automatically adjust offsets of the tool that machined the feature that was found to be out of tolerances and rerun said operation and recheck said feature to ensure quality. All of these functions were performed automatically without any input from an operator. This is a pretty magnificent feature to have in production, and my supervisor knew it. The supervisor who observed the demo immediately went to report this to higher ups who came to view the new feature I had implemented. As the next part was being produced, the quality check move initiated and found that the second part was also bad and output a message to change tools X, Y and Z. The managers were incredibly surprised that this was all done on an 18-year-old machine, and they looked to my supervisor to ask how he figured it out. Long story short, he took the credit and was given a raise on the spot. It did not register to me that that is what happened until I went to ask if he was going to credit me for my work. He said,
"Yeah, but you gotta put in the time to get to where I'm at. It don't matter that you did the job, because without me, you would have never known how to do your fancy programming in the first place."
The managers had left for the day, so I could not fight my case right then. The next day, I was planning on informing the managers that I was the one who did the programming to do that. The managers were also former machine shop veterans with 20+ years in the workplace and refused to believe me. Not only that, they basically yelled at me for trying to steal credit from someone who has worked their way up in the company and learned everything on their own and not from some school. I went to my station even more pissed now, where I was met by my supervisor. He told me that I needed to go around to all the machines that could perform that function and add it to the code. I said, "Not without a raise. My code saves you guys tons and brings the bottom line to a level that McDonald's qualified workers could produce infinite numbers of parts with minimal loss." He said if I didn't do it, I would be fired. So I faked my compliance and started to change code on all the machines. If you know anything about programming, you know you can make something function a certain way until a certain value is met and then have it completely change afterwards. This was my job security. So I set the quality check up on 18 machines the first day, then the last 30 that weekend, and the managers were praising the supervisor uncontrollably for his innovation. Well, the programs were all set to operate as normal and do quality checks like I programmed the original machine. However, I programmed the rest of the machines to keep track of a new variable. They would run and self-check just fine until they reached a random number of parts produced, 50 to 500 depending on the production time of the parts run on each machine, where it would then throw up an error code that would only be cleared with a password I had set for it. If a wrong password was provided or someone just hit the enter/reset button, the machine would take its largest tool in the turret and run it rapidly into the solid chuck at maximum RPMs. I made it so about 65 to 75 hours of production would go smoothly before my job security would kick in. It took 3 days for the machines to hit their magic values, but when they did, oh boy, was it magically satisfying. The first machine to crash was making parts for the drive lines of a major motor company. The crash was caused while a new operator was running the machine, who I might add was only hired because the program I made let them hire clueless people into the shop and be able to still produce good parts. When he tried to clear my password code, the lathe started turning at 2500 RPMs with a large heavy drive shaft base in the holder, switched to a huge drill and ran the drill into the holder, causing the tool holder to be knocked off axis, the part holder and tools to be destroyed, as well as cost the company tons to get someone from the machine's maintenance team out to repair it. After the first glorious crash, I menacingly mentioned to the supervisor, "You should check your codes to make sure they are working properly." He went ghost white. Not a second after, 3 more machines simultaneously crash in glorious fashion. He starts to chew me out, saying I am in huge trouble, but as he starts cursing, the managers are there to have him go diagnose the problem with his codes. The supervisor, not wanting to admit he stole my work, doubles down and says confidently,
"I know what the problem is,"
and walks off to the crashed machines. Not a minute after, they turn a corner and more machines start crashing. I just sit idly by and listen to the glorious sounds of my nuclear revenge playing out. A few minutes later, all the workers are told to stop production completely. We are all kept in the shop until they can figure out the problems. This is a 24-hour production facility with 3 shifts of workers coming in 7 days a week, mind you. Our shift is nearly over and we have all been idle for about 7 hours. The next shift comes in and we leave for the day. I hear nothing from the shop, so I just go in the next day as normal. Turns out they tried to fire machines back up during the night shift and 18 more machines crashed like the others. The plant did a formal layoff of most of the workers the next week as they were hemorrhaging money from all the damaged machines on top of labor paid without any production. We filed a class action suit against the company for unemployment, lost vacation time, dangerous work conditions due to the severity of the crashes, etc. The company went bankrupt from the lawsuits and losses in production/machine repairs. The guy who took my credit was obviously fired and had an article in the paper about him sabotaging the company's production. He obviously told them I was responsible for the crashes, but the company found out that the code to my password program was his name. They believed he did this out of spite because he was refused a raise the previous year and his threats to them after his last evaluation. Sucks to suck. Added to all in the comments worried about the innocent workers, they were given 2 months severance pay on top of being able to collect unemployment for 16 weeks. The severance pay outlined by the lawsuit took into account all the benefits the employees had before getting laid off. I do feel guilty that there was collateral damage, however, most of the employees ended up with the equivalent of about 6 months paid vacation. So there is a happy ending. I honestly did not think the company would continue to try and run these machines when all the ones that my supervisor took claim to programming were crashing. That was their fault/greed trying to make money instead of fixing the problems before continuing production in my opinion. Edit number 2, it was 18 machines the first day and 15 a day the following 2 days. And guys, please let me know in the comments what you think about this insane nuclear revenge story, and furthermore I'm curious, has anyone ever taken credit for your work at your workplace? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled RBN Gets Owned by Wife, posted by CNA Paranormal Queen on our own subreddit r/ripe stories. The cast is me, African American queen, racist B, neighbor, RBN, in her 70s or 80s, I don't know, she's a dino, hubby, full-blood African king, baby shark, my 2-year-old mini-man who is like his mama part albino. On to the backstory, both sets of my grandparents were dark-skinned, but my dad came out albino. Or albino, I'm not sure. I can pass as Caucasian, but embrace my African American side. My hubby is full African born and raised, but came to the US in early 2010. We met late 2010 and been married since. We have 4 beautiful kids, 1 girl and 3 boys. My 2-year-old is like me and retained the albino gene so he can pass as Caucasian also. We moved to our state's capital city last August and my hubby had to go to work, check something, leaving me with my clutch. I was moving my stuff from the van into the house when RBN came over to greet us. As I was talking to RBN, Baby Shark came out and ran to the van to get his Baby Shark plushie. My oldest child ran out the house after him. RBN scolded and said,
"We respectable ladies should not mix with their type."
And that my babysitter, oldest child,
needs to go home, cause her type was not welcome in our neighborhood.
I dropped the box I had in my hands to the ground in shock, my mouth agaped. Just then hubby returned and greeted me and RBN. RBN glares at hubby.
"Don't talk to me, I don't like you."
I turned and gave my hubby a big kiss on his mouth and went to get Baby Shark and his sister, leaving RBN to look at me in horror and disgust. Since then she's been calling my kids and hubby racist slurs and other things that my mama lion's side just wants to tear her a new one. And yes, I can say the word tear. Well, yesterday I needed a few things for the house grocery wise. I normally bulk buy to last us for a few months, that way we don't worry. But with COVID-19, some things are hard to come by. I stepped out of my home and RBN was outside. RBN:
"You're not to leave your house, you ant lover. I'm gonna report you to the police for breaking the law."
Me? Whatever, crazy. I walked past her to my car. 2 days prior she could be heard screaming at someone about running out of toilet paper and not finding any. I was on my last 2 rolls but was not worried because I had a stash of flushable wipes hidden. I went about my business, famous paper supply store to print Baby Shark's preschool projects, Red Dart store for my Starbucks coffee packets, and cream. Cries, not the same as the fresh brew, and to the dollar store for toothpaste and other things. I decided to check dollar store's paper products aisle just in case. Oh, the glorious toilet paper gods! They had toilet paper with a limit of 4. On this day I had forgotten about RBN being out of TP. I grabbed 4 and checked out and started heading back home with my treasure. But as I pulled around the corner to my house, I saw RBN still outside and it struck me hard. I grinned like the devil with my plan in my head. RBN saw me and glared at me. I got out and went to the trunk to get my groceries. RBN:
I called the cops. They're on their way to arrest you for breaking the law, you stupid N lover.
Me: that is great, RBN. I'm still in my trunk, having taken out a pack of the toilet paper and holding it with my hip, still smiling. RBN: I seriously think she's got dementia or something. I feel sorry for her, but hey.
That's what you get for being with an N and having N kids, filthy effing N lover. Cannot stay with your own kind.
I closed my trunk and grabbed my treasure and proudly holding it up above my head as the trophy it is before walking up the curb to my house. RBN stopped her racist ranting and watched me in shock at my treasure. I grinned harder before knocking on my house door, knowing RBN would be sending her son to come over and ask where I got the TP from. My hubby opened the door and busted out laughing at what I was holding over me. Husby whispers, "You really hate RBN that bad for all the slurs, don't you?" Me: "Yes I do." Baby Shark: "Mama, paper bathroom." Me: "Yes my love." Cheerfully. TLDR: racist neighbor hates my family because they are black and says I should stay with whites only. She runs out of TP and I get her back with a good find for cheap deal. PS: toilet paper was Scott brand and RBN's son, my actual neighbor, sweet guy, his mom just lives with him and thinks she owns everything, came over this morning and asked my hubby where I found toilet paper. I told him and offered him a pack. He said no thanks, he and his fiancée were gonna get some and asked if we wanted any more. Said thanks but no thanks. i.e. she tried calling the cops but son stopped her, stating the actual law. And I suppose this story would also fit r/petty revenge. And guys, if you have watched this far, you are actually a very loyal viewer, thank you so much, and I want to reward you with another pro-revenge story which was actually posted a few days ago. I'm posting this so far in the end because in case you have already heard this story, you can turn off the video now. So the next one is from Pro Revenge and is titled "The Girl Friday with the PhD Takes Over the Business from Ungrateful Owner." This is a long tale. It is also a textbook case of why you don't abuse loyal associates. My spouse was the second person hired at a consulting company in a very specialized industry. In her 15 years with the firm, it grew to a respectable 3-office, 8 to 10 employees at each location entity. She and the owner grew the business on the contacts, expertise and presentation of my wife. To the extent that my wife's abilities and education were the main reason new business came through the door. Over the years her scope of responsibility grew, so that the owner was basically 75% absent and mostly unaware of day-to-day activity. As he got more and more removed from the business, he would make overtures that he would eventually retire and sell her the business. He was so dependent on her income generating that he took out a life insurance policy on her. I did not involve myself too much, but at a major industry dinner party I attended with her, he introduced my wife to the table as my girl Friday, basically a secretary, which was kind of weird. Over the years she tried to get an agreement in place to buy the firm, even if it was years away. He always delayed and made promises but never followed through. I told her, "This guy does not respect you or your contribution, he will never sell you the business because there's no reason to. He can make more money by stringing you along and essentially you are the business. Why would he sell it to you?" One day out of the blue, my wife received a raise and a bonus, a very minor amount of money and a contract that included a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement. After reading it, she realized that the owner was trying to lock her down from leaving for another firm. She had been getting feelers from other companies. To make things even more suspicious, she received a call from a competitor who said they were in final stages of due diligence and they wanted to meet her. The a-hole was selling the company and did not think to tell her or ask if she was interested in buying it. She ignored the agreement and there were no other agreements in place. She was totally free. My wife is extremely loyal. She has missed so many special days working for this guy, stuck around when they were wobbly, even skipped paychecks when there were tough financial times. She was furious, the absolute maddest I have ever seen her. We discussed starting her own firm and I asked how much business is contractually obligated to stay there if you leave. It turned out that most agreements were either handshakes or 30-day at will. I also asked how many would leave with you. She said about 75%, including her biggest source of revenue, who did not even know the owner. In a very short time, my wife took a 3-week vacation. She had months of unused time, during which time she rented an office in the same building and made all the arrangements to set up a new shop. She agreed to leave any and all company property behind and do her best to give the old company no obvious ammo for litigation. She called her clients and said, "I'm leaving. If you want to look into relocating your account with my new company, you will need to quit the old one before we can discuss it." Most understood the implication. While she was on vacation, she received a panicked call from her boss.
"We lost XYZ company. Do you know anything about it?"
She said, "I'm sorry, but I just sent you an email. I have resigned. All my keys and company stuff is on my desk. Bye." The new firm took basically 90% of the business and seamlessly transitioned into the same company as it was before, but with a new owner. Even most of the office staff would come aboard. Within a year, her old company closed down, except for the small office her old boss ran. She sees him once in a while and he just scowls at her. By the way guys, after reading all these stories, I'm curious, would you prefer for me to read the stories in a specific order? For example, we could start with Pro Revenge, then go to Nuclear Revenge, then Ripe Stories, and then Petty Revenge. If you have any order in mind, please let me know in the comments. Thank you very much.